to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. It's great to have you joining us again today. And we are going to talk about something that I mentioned back when I did my episode 10 Hard Truths about Success, that I would do 10 hard truths about your job, your work, your career, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it your work just to make it simple. Going to be good, going to be helpful, and I'm excited to share this with you. Before we jump in, let me just say we are in this Christmas season, and many times you're looking for gifts that you can buy that are maybe less expensive. You've got certainly people that you'll have the more expensive gifts for, but then you've got those folks you'd like to give them something, but not too much. Or maybe you're in one of these situations at your job, at work, or in some other setting in a group where everyone's going to pass out something, but there's got to be a price point. It's got to be less than $25 or something like that. And I would just say to you that I got the perfect gift options for you, and that is one of my many books that I've written. So let me just real quick just go through my most best-selling books, called Turn Your Setbacks into Comebacks. If you know anyone that needs a comeback, that's been through some sort of setback, could be financial, could be job, could be health, could be relationship, whatever it might be, that book is a great book. Many people love it. Turn Your Setbacks into Comebacks. There's a book called You Got Style, which is a fascinating book about how we have different styles, thinking styles, time style, decision style, parenting style, leadership style. It just goes on and on. There's like 13 different chapters of all these different styles, and then there's inventories at the back of each chapter. So if you want to understand yourself better, or you want, especially if you want to help people who maybe need to understand themselves better, or maybe in a particular setting, like a team setting, again, a work setting, something like that, that book is fantastic. It's great for marriages because with parenting styles, there's many spiritual styles. There's many things where financial styles, just really helpful to a relationship. So that's a great one. And then I've got 2 devotionals, 100 devotionals. One called This Is Living, and that is a beautiful hardcover, very nice gift kind of book to give because it's got color inside. It's really nice. And then my latest one is called Greater, and that's not quite as fancy, but it sure is still a good gift and a great message. Great message. As you know, you just heard the Greater message last week's episode. So that book is all about the greater life, and again, a daily dose. These books are fantastic for people who aren't readers. This is Living in Greater, because all they have to do is read 2 pages a day. In fact, some people get a real kick out of it because they just read 2 pages a day, and then at the end of it they've read a whole book, and they're like, man, I never even made it through a whole book before. Men very much are in this category. So if you wanted to give someone a gift, that would just be something very positive. Every year when people do this, I hear from folks who say, man, that was the best inexpensive gift I've ever given. My friend said to me, my sister said to me, my colleague said to me, man, I'm reading that. It's really, I love the inspiration, motivation it gives me. Thank you so much. What a great gift. So these are all available. The new book that I'm a part of, Maverick Leadership, if you know someone in the leadership role or into leadership, that one is called Maverick Leadership. That's just one chapter that I have in there. There are many other military and business leaders and me and myself and one other faith leader that are in there. So that's Maverick Leadership. Get any of these books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever, Target, Walmart, wherever they might be, you can find them. You can go to rickmcdaniel.com, my website. You can get, if you like a signed copy, you can do that, and we'd love to send it to you. So great gifts, really great gifts, and it's such a great way to do it. You could buy 4 or 5 books, and you could spend less than $100, and you'd have 5 gifts that you could give out. I mean, that's really, really fantastic. So. And of course, you get a few for yourself as well. So take advantage of it in this Christmas season And I think you'll hear back from people and they'll be like, wow, that was really, really good gift. All right, so did 10 hard truths about success, and I was like, I should do one on work in the same way, 10 hard truths about your work and about your job. And so the first thing is, after I did the hard truths about success, some people are like, hey, you're the inspirational guy, Mr. Positive. And I was surprised, you did something negative. And so I just want to say to you, understanding certain realities is not negative. I would say it's more strategic. And so it's wise. I believe in the power, obviously, of a positive example. Obviously. I mean, I just, if you've heard me, read anything I've written, listen to my speaking or podcast, whatever, you know all that. But I do believe in the positive and the power of a negative example as well. I think that the power of the negative example is essentially don't do that. That's not the way to go. That's not going to lead you in the path that you want to go with your life. So there's something to be said for the negative example. But again, I think just understanding these kind of, and I call them hard truths because they're both hard and true. They're hard to hear. They're hard to hear, but they're reality. And you don't do yourself any favors in life when you're not tethered to reality. You have to face reality. You have to face things the way that they are. Now, again, this is, people are like, oh, that's why I'm not in the positive thinking, because you guys are all, just pie in the sky, everything's utopia. No, that's not the case. Myself and others that are in this field that I know personally, like a John Gordon, for instance, very well aware of the negative realities in life, but choosing to be positive in spite of them. And so, again, even today, you'll see the positive even in the hard truth that, unfortunately, we just got to talk about because you just can't get around it. It's true. All right. So how about if we just jump in? Hard truths, 10 hard truths about your work. So here's one. Hard work is not always rewarded. It can go unnoticed. Wow. Hard work, man. I mean, that's a success principle for sure. And, you just think, well, if I work hard, then people are going to notice. And that notice is going to lead to good things for me. And that's not necessarily the case. You have to ensure that you'll be seen. In other words, you have to advocate for yourself, and this can be hard for certain personalities. Some people are huge self-promoters, so it doesn't bother them at all. But probably the majority of people find it a little difficult to do that. But it's just something that you have to do. You have to be able to document, your wins. You have to be able to make sure people know and kind of advocate for recognition for your hard work and your success and the things that you're doing. And that's just the way it is. Whether that is the most comfortable thing for you to do or even to hear, it is the truth. And that's what this is about, 10 hard truths that you're going to, again, you don't have to become some huge self-promoter, but you do have to advocate for your work and what you've accomplished and the W's that you've put under your belt so that people know that and can see it. It's just the way it is. All right, here's another hard one. You're always replaceable. Others can do your work, can do your job. So, this is, again, difficult to hear because you think, oh no, I'm not replaceable. There's just no one that can replace me. But the fact is that people are replaced all the time. All the time. It's a reality that you have to be willing to face. And the key in this whole reality, this truth, is that you really have to make an impact. Now, I'm all about, anyone knows me, High Impact Living. That's the organization I lead. I'm all about impact and high impact. So it should not be a surprise to hear this, but the way that you make sure people think you're irreplaceable is by making just such a high impact that it just can't be denied, and frankly it's long lasting. Those are what you want to focus on, making the impact, so that though other people can replace you, people are not going to want to replace you because they're going to say, I don't know if he can make the same impact. I just don't know if this can happen. But you have to know that the predominant thinking out there is that everyone's replaceable. And again, you just see it all the time. Even in the most high profile of roles, you'll see people come and people go. All right, here's the third one. No one will set your boundaries for you. No one. That's just not how it works in the work world. If you don't set boundaries, people will think you can handle more and more and more and more. And they'll keep giving you more and more and more and more to do. So you've really got to be someone who sets clear boundaries. And you've got to be able to be comfortable with the word no. Again, I did an entire podcast episode on this, so you can go back and find it, an entire episode on saying no. I did a whole series where I talked about 10 words that can change your life. Yes, no, thank you. So that's great. Those are great episodes to listen to. But you're going to have to be able to say no, because otherwise burnout will force you. You'll be forced to do it. You won't want to do it, but you'll have no choice in the matter, because that's what will happen to you, because you didn't speak up and you didn't set boundaries. And, depending on the kind of work situation, and it's very hard to talk about such a broad subject. Some people have so many different kinds of jobs, careers, and work. But, there are certain ones where they're just especially prone to this, where people will just keep giving you more. Like, you're good at your job, so they'll just keep giving you more things to do. Other people, the nature of their work just doesn't quite lend itself to the same to that. So you have to discern that for yourself. But I'm telling you, and of course, boundaries, it's, saying no does not mean that you're ugly and, you want to get fired from your job. You've got to say it in the right way, but you've got to be able to speak up, because nobody else is going to do that for you, which leads to another one, burnout. Okay. It's real and it's bad. Okay. So you've got to understand that this can happen to you, that you can just get overwhelmed. Stress and burnout maybe I should add stress as well. Stress and burnout, because they're two different things, and they're both real and they're both tough. So you've got to be able to listen to your body. You've got to be able to say, okay, I've got to take care of myself. Otherwise, I won't do a good job. I won't be able to be successful in my work unless I'm taking care of myself first. So you have to understand yourself. You also have to understand seasons. Even if we go into boundaries, it's one thing to have like a season, like there's like a deadline and there's a project that needs to be fulfilled. I just heard a leader say, the other day, it cracked me up. He said, I might not be quoting exactly right, but it kind of went something like this: I never want to waste the opportunity for a deadline. I mean, deadlines are good. People respond to deadlines. So you may have a good leader who's like, we need to set a deadline. So there may be a season of activity that is intense, but that can't go on forever. So, you don't want to say, hey, I can't do this. And, yes, you can do it for a time. You just can't do it forever. So, sort of over time type of work. And again, take it from a guy who, at the beginning of starting my church, I just worked like a maniac, like 80 or 90 hours a week. There's nothing wrong with that for a season. Unfortunately, I did it for too long. And by too long, I mean like 5 years. And so then what happened is I ended up with double pneumonia and pleurisy because I just completely exhausted myself from just going. Also having very young children at the same time didn't help. So you got to understand the situation and you've got to listen to your body. You've got to rest to be your best. So be aware. And again, not all stress is bad. I mean, some stress, again, like the stress of a deadline, can get you to perform and produce when you need to. But again, stress can become distress. And that's when you're not in a good state. You're not in a good place. All right, here's another one. Office politics are often inevitable. And, you cannot like it. It can be a pain to you. It can be a nuisance. And you might want to just say, I'm just not going to participate. But the reality is that sometimes it's really unavoidable. Now, when I say unavoidable, I don't mean participating in gossip and all kinds of ugly aspects. But what I mean is that you'll have to develop the skill to manage these dynamics. And this is really part of emotional intelligence, is just understanding that there's different people and they act in different ways. And we'll pick this up again here at the end. They act in different ways. And so some people, again, by example in their work history, have just come to work in this dynamic of office politics and this sort of political posturing. And so you can hate it and you can say it's not right, it's a waste of time, it's counterproductive, all kinds of stuff. And I was very much that kind of person early in my career. I'm like, I have no time for this, I won't participate in it, I'm not going to acknowledge it. And what I came to understand is I don't need to participate in it, and I'm not going to gossip, and I'm not going to backbite, I'm not going to go behind people, and I'm not going to do all that stuff. But you do have to say, okay, this exists, and so I've got to figure out how to make it work in a way for me that's positive and beneficial for me. All right, here's another hard truth. Career growth takes time. It does. Constant growth, quick promotions, kind of rare. So again, really, really, really don't like to talk about these sorts of things, because it's just a downer. But it would be wrong of me not to just tell you the hard truth that it just can't be up and up all the time. Now, when I led my church, we had 16 straight years where everything was up. All the numbers, all the metrics, all the people numbers, financial numbers, everything, 16 years, so you say, well, that's pretty constant growth. Yeah, but again, even that came to an end. I remember one time I read where McDonald's had 100 quarters, so 25 years of increased profit for 25 years, for 100 quarters in a row. But that doesn't, even something as impressive as that does not last forever. So There can be growth spurts for sure, and there can be some consistent times of growth, but not constant, not forever. And, you can move up, maybe quicker promotion-wise, but then the higher up you go, see, the harder it is. There's less, it's one thing, this manager level, this director level, okay, but then now we're at the vice president level. Now you keep going up and up, senior vice president, and you get into the C-suite. There's only so many jobs. There's only so many positions. And so you have to be patient, and you have to be consistent now. You have to keep being consistent. Again, consistent versus constant. I'm delineating those two words. You can always be consistent, and you can have consistent personal growth and development, but constant growth in terms of, say, organizationally, can't last forever. Even if it's 100 quarters or 16 straight years, whatever the examples I gave. Pretty great, but nothing can last forever, and you've got to take the long game perspective and just say, okay, yeah, it's gonna take some time. All right, here's another. It's a really hard one. Purpose doesn't always pay the bills. Passion and purpose are really important, but you do need to be able to make a living. And so, again, a guy who is just so invested in encouraging people to pursue their dreams, and even in my own life, pursuing my own dreams, I'm painfully aware that this is true, even though I don't like to talk about it, because I don't want to discourage anyone at all. I want to encourage people to pursue their dreams. But for instance, I'll just give an example. I was reading about this person one time. I don't know them, but they're a writer, and I wasn't familiar with any of the books, but basically what they said was, I have to have a job and also be a writer. Like, I can't just make it on the author side of things, and very few authors can. So you can pursue that dream, but you still have to have some other source of income to be able to make a living. And so even though I am a gigantic believer in purpose and passion and love those aspects of life, have spoken, written, and advocated for having passion and purpose, and will continue to do so, you do have to know at the same time that you can make that into a living. Like, you can turn that into a living. And by the way, it may be, again, a process. It takes time. Like, in the beginning, it isn't, but then it becomes a living. So just got to stay after it. All right, here's another hard one, because I'm a big guy on loyalty. Loyalty isn't always a two-way street. Man, it's just, when you're loyal, you expect it. You expect it back. I certainly do. I'm an enormously loyal person. If you're a friend of mine, you are in a good situation with me. But companies need to make profits, and so, in the end, you got to look out for yourself. You have got to look out for yourself. In other words, you got to invest in skills that can create lasting impact for you in your career, because you just never know. I have had 3 people close to me lose their jobs in recent times here. I mean, very close together. I would say the 3 of them within a month. So, you could, and one of them, I mean, just really did such a great job, and was really like the only person, and he was doing it at one location, and they had a number like 7 or 8 locations, and he was the only one really doing what he was doing. And instead of kind of replicating his success at the other locations, they decided to cut his role. I mean, just, man, what in the world? Loyalty, it's not a two-way street. And companies can look at the bottom line, and many times instead of looking to increase revenue, they look to cut costs. And one of the easiest costs to cut will always be payroll. So you just have to be aware of that. All right? That's, again, hard to hear. All right, here's another one, man. You'll never be fully appreciated. You'll never be fully appreciated. That's just not going to happen. And again, it's really hard because you want to be. In fact, and this is my personal experience here, it's really, again, hard to talk about it, but the fact of the matter is, not only will you never be fully appreciated, you will be taken for granted. My experience, I started something, like a church that from scratch. There were no people. It did not exist. I built it, built the entire thing, built the buildings, built the numbers, built the staff. It was, now when I say I, you understand, I had lots of help, lots of great people. But I was the guy who got it all rolling and oversaw it leadership-wise, 27 years. That should lead to an enormous amount of appreciation, and it just did not. It did not, and in fact, what it really resulted in was just really being taken for granted. And when I made this major pivot in my life to leave my baby and to go out in a new direction of high impact living and writing and speaking and media and all that sort of stuff, the idea that it would just be, just be something where people would sort of be like, oh, what are we going to do without you? And this can't be happening. And certainly there was some of that, but not the fanfare I would have expected, honestly. Now, this was a COVID pandemic era type thing. So that has to be taken into consideration. And I always want to remind myself of that, because that was a weird time. So we'll take that in. But really shocking. So if you're waiting to be appreciated the way you should, I got a hard truth for you. It's not going to happen. In fact, people, if you're good, they'll probably just take you for granted. And then this one I sort of referenced earlier, and here it is just in terms of people. People lack self-awareness. They lack self-awareness. They really do. Here's what happens. They will judge you by your actions, but they will judge themselves by their intentions. Wow. They'll just be so unaware that what they're doing is they're not judging themselves by their actions, but by their intentions. But they will hold you accountable according to your actions. And so, bottom line, people have blind spots, and they do. They do. And so you've got to work within the reality that people have blind spots. And as I was talking about, just office politics, the way people can act, and you're like, why are they acting like this? And they might not even be aware that they're doing it. It's just amazing. I just think of so many examples of people. I just had this happen to me a couple months back. I'm just looking at this person going, do you hear yourself? Do you even understand what you're saying? Like, it's so obvious. And many times, it's like everyone else knows but the person. It's like, how are they not knowing? But that's the way it is. And so that's what you're dealing with. At the end of the day, you've got to build your own resilience personally, that you can deal with these realities. You've got to, again, in my opinion, you've got to have a routine, like a devotional life where, you start the day in prayer and reading the Bible and just really getting your mind right. And just starting the day off right so you can deal with the stress and the challenges and the hard realities of work, of what it means to work at a place, to have a job, to pursue a career. And you got to start your day off the right way and get in the right mindset so then you can take on the challenges. But these are the challenges, and they are realities. None of them cannot be overcome. We can always be positive and optimistic and believe we can conquer anything that stands in our way. But forewarned is forearmed, right? So now you've been warned, and now you can arm yourself. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.